Hello everyone, my name is Paul. I am the father of Alexandre, who is an autistic child. He is now 9 years old and was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. The purpose of this video is to answer a very specific question, which is about the breakthrough in Alexandre's progress that was observed 3 months ago, a ray of sunshine that I am going to share with you in this video. So I thought my son was autistic. I had reached a point where I was resigned, where I thought there was nothing to be done except accept the situation. I think you are probably in the same situation today with your child. You have probably consulted all the psychologists, psychiatrists, and doctors who are also resigned, who are helpless, who are unable to help you when faced with a brain-related problem. We tell ourselves that nothing can be done since it's the brain. We can't improve the brain. The only thing they offer you today is ABA therapy. So a behavioral therapy for your child, conditioning them with rewards and stimulation. And today you are limited to this approach, which probably in your case has brought maybe very slight, very minor improvements. And you have a child who still has many autistic symptoms and you feel resigned. So that was the situation I was in until about 3 months ago. And I'm going to share with you the turning point that in my life and my son's life changed everything. So this turning point happened when I dug a little deeper into the subject of neuromodulation. Today, if you look into neuromodulation, there are some clinics that offer it at extremely prohibitive costs. I refused that approach. I did my own research on the subject. I read the literature. Today, there are more than 5,000 scientific articles on neuromodulation, on transcranial stimulation. I encourage you to look into the subject yourself. And in my case, there was a very clear turning point right after starting neuromodulation, even though for 6 or 7 years, since Alexandre was 3, I had been wandering from one treatment to another. That means I was searching for solutions without ever finding any. In a field where most specialists tell you to work, to stimulate, to educate, but I always felt like I was just stabbing in the dark, working a lot and getting almost no results for my efforts, no improvement at all. In reality, Alexandre has been stuck with autistic symptoms for 6 or 7 years. What is Alexandre's situation? Alexandre was diagnosed as autistic with very little or no language, mixing up words. For example, to tell you he's going to the pool, he'll say he's going to the gym. And even then, these are words that are extremely emergent, with tendencies to cry for no reason, to laugh for no reason, completely inappropriate eye contact, self-stimulation, and stereotypies. He would write in the air, make little noises with his mouth. Extremely passive, completely unable to take initiative, constantly socially withdrawn, and so on. So the whole range of autistic symptoms in which you probably recognize yourself. The turning point was 3 months ago when I started neuromodulation with Alexandre, and the results were spectacular, to say the least. Hypersensitivity was the first thing to disappear. Something that no one predicted, not even the neurologist I consulted recently, a neurologist who is a professor of neurology, who was very surprised. So the auditory hypersensitivity, Alexandre would do this as soon as there was even a little bit of music. The hypersensitivity has completely disappeared, as has the tactile hypersensitivity. When you touched Alexandre, his hypersensitivity would make him burst out laughing as soon as you touched him like that. So that has completely disappeared. After a week of transcranial stimulation, of neuromodulation. But I wasn't done being surprised. What also changed significantly is the disappearance of stereotypies, the autistic self-stimulations he had after a month of neuromodulation. A child who is calm, with bright eyes, a calm face. For me, this was an incredibly exciting revolution, given the situation I was in with an autistic child who was impossible to take out, impossible to manage, unable to concentrate or learn. For him, staying in class for 15 minutes was a challenge. Today, we have a child who is able to sit for an hour, even 2 hours, to do exercises, to think things through. We have seen cognitive progress that is also incomparable to what there was before, a capacity to concentrate, a much faster learning speed. This too is an effect of neuromodulation, which improves the speed of processing and synchronization between different areas of the brain. So the scandal is that you have a technique that, I'm not talking about care or complete reversibility. Careful, I'm adding a disclaimer in this video. Don't expect to have total reversibility. However, you can rightfully expect, based on the scientific literature that you'll find in the description of this video, a very significant improvement with a likely lifting of your child's neurological barriers. And this will be the complete opposite of what you might expect compared to what you might get in terms of return on investment. For example, with ABA therapy, which in my case produced only microscopic results compared to what I have today, in 3 months, I've seen a transformation in my child that is absolutely unparalleled compared to ABA exercises, the centers that offer you exercises, behavioral therapies, group sessions, and so on, etc. From the moment you have a leak in the ceiling, these theories, these treatments are like putting a bucket to catch the drops of water from the leak. The problem is when the issue is at the source in the brain, you have to address the problem at its source first. And neuromodulation is still very underused today. And it's absolutely outrageous today. As a parent of an autistic child, I think I'm in a pretty good position to share my experience with you and what I've been able to improve, to radically change. Today, it's been 3 months of intensive, almost daily neuromodulation, and I plan to continue over the coming months until a significant plateau is reached. But I'm going to try to make the most of neuromodulation for my son, knowing that today I've already achieved results that go far beyond what is described in the literature. Regarding neuromodulation in terms of possible progress, since today, after 3 months of neuromodulation, I estimate about a 50% improvement in my son. On the behavioral, cognitive, and functional levels, hypersensitivity has disappeared. The stereotypies have almost completely disappeared. Not entirely, but by about 90%. Sometimes they come back very slightly, but overall, there's been an almost total disappearance of stereotypies. The restricted interests, which are actually a diagnostic criterion for autism, have completely disappeared. That's very important. The child no longer needs self-stimulation because he is now regulated thanks to neuromodulation. He wakes up in the morning already regulated. So we have very significantly improved probably the gamma, the electrophysiological functioning of the brain, which today is much more regulated than it was before. A key point, I'm digressing a little in this video, but a very large number of autistic children, a significant percentage, are diagnosed as autistic when in fact they could be very significantly improved with neuromodulation. And especially those who have a history of early childhood trauma, where there was emotional neglect or where there were arguments between the parents, or where there may have been traumatic events. These are major factors in causing electrophysiological imbalances in the brain, which can be greatly improved through neuromodulation. There you have it. I hope this video will provide you with valuable information to help your child improve, and if possible, of course, to move out of the autism spectrum and make as much progress as possible. Ideally, to make these autistic symptoms, which are particularly disabling, disappear as much as possible. And I simply hope that this YouTube channel will provide you with as much advice and support as possible in this noble endeavor you are undertaking to help your child improve to the fullest extent.